One last look at your traffic and weather free ride in on this Tuesday morning. Got several accidents to report. Let's see, one at Industrial Drive and Two Notch Road. Another one at Barr between Pisgah Church and Highway 1. Another one at Sunset and I-26. Broad River Road at Bush River, and then one at North Main and Lorick. Today, it's going to be cloudy, rain on and off with a high of 76. Tomorrow, breezy, high of 72. Thursday, sunshine with a high of 76. That's your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on The Game. Nine o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here, navigating you through a bye week. A little more quiet around here this week. No Shane Beamer presser today at 1 o'clock. No assistants or players talking this week as well. Going to be a little more calm before we ramp things back up next week leading into LSU. Do you like the double bye that we've had these past two seasons?
I do, because it is more time off for us, and we get a chance to it's a long season, man.
It is.
And quite frankly, I'm of the proponent that the NFL needs to do this as well, where they do the 2 bye weeks. And I don't know if this isn't a yearly thing, right? Because obviously it has not been the case before last year.
Yeah, it all depends on how the calendar falls, like when Labor Day is. When Labor Day is early, like if Labor Day encompasses part of August, like this year, Carolina played on August 31st, which was Sunday. So Labor Day was really early this year on the 1st.
Yeah. That's
when you get a double bye. Like next year, the opening weekend's like September 5th and 6th, so there will only be 1 bye, if I'm thinking correctly, next year. It all depends on the way the calendar works.
Interesting. I like the 2 byes, especially now with how college football, I mean, shoot, if you're like Ohio State last year, I mean, your season was going all the way from August 31st till January 20th. I mean, that's a long season, man. And to only have 1 bye, especially if it comes early, like if this is your only bye of the year right here this week, I mean, you still got all of October, all of November. You'll have a little bit of downtime in December before the bowl game or even like a playoff game, but still, you're preparing for a playoff game. You're not resting, so it's good to have the time off, though. I would say that
it is, and when you have the double bye, technically that makes the season longer. So we have 2 weekends this weekend, and then the weekend after Carolina plays Ole Miss, where you actually do get time to just relax and watch other college football. You know what I mean? So it does technically make for a longer season while you're still playing. You're playing 12 games over 14 weeks as opposed to 12 over 13 like most years.
Yeah, it's a long season, and for South Carolina, I mean, they need this break. It comes at a good time where they got the win. They're 3-2 now. Was not the best month for them as we head into October, starting tomorrow. I mean, you like things to go a lot better, but the good news is you played well in your final game before the break, and hopefully you look a lot better coming out of it, honestly, because, again, the last time you had one of these bye weeks was last year, and we know how that turned out coming to play Ole Miss, and that was South Carolina's worst game of the year. So you got to be well prepared for next week.
Yeah, if you come out with the same kind of effort against LSU that you had against Ole Miss last year of the bye week, you're going to get run out of the building in Baton Rouge pretty quickly. So hopefully that's not the case. But as we talked about yesterday, again, good win going into the bye week. Again, Kentucky's probably the worst team in the SEC. I think most people would agree with that. But you did your job, right? And considering how you played against SC State a couple weeks ago, the quality of the opponent doesn't necessarily matter. Winning a game is winning a game, And, coming out of this one with 23 or 22-point win over Kentucky makes you feel good. Did a lot of things well. Obviously, Sellers got his mojo back when it came to run the football, which was nice to see. Defense played its best game of the season so far. Dylan Stewart looked like Dylan Stewart. A lot of positives to take away from that, and you're carrying some semblance of momentum into the bye week now.
No, you definitely are, and things are looking good right now. You still got a lot of work to do. I think the offense took steps in the right direction. I think they were much more balanced on Saturday, which is what you honestly want. I mean, you ran for nearly 180 yards in that game on the ground. Now, most of that came from Lenore Sellers, but still, I mean, you had some good moments on the ground. You scored 3 touchdowns. That's a big stride in the right direction, but obviously you still have work to do, as I said, and I think it starts by continuing to develop the offense. Again, we were kind of complaining yesterday about all the runs up the middle. I'd like to see Mike Shula get a little bit more creative. I know he is getting creative, but be more creative with those runs. Don't just hand it off straight up the middle. I think that's so predictable half the time. You can do it every now and then, but it felt like, back-to-back plays, right? It was just very predictable at times. So mix it up a little bit more, get the offense going, and hopefully you can start turning it into Lenoris having the 300-yard passing game he had at Missouri and combine it with what he did on the ground this past weekend.
Yeah, you can't really waste plays with this offense, and I get it. Some offensive coordinators not necessarily waste plays, but will do something just to kind of see what the defense is trying to do, what kind of looks they're giving them, and all that kind of stuff. But, man, with how up and down this offense has been, I really can't risk wasting a up-the-middle run that only gets you 1 yard over and over and over again. Like, I would like to see some variety. And, you do have to have other guys in the offense do their job. You got to have blocking up front. You got to have blocking on the perimeter with the receivers and tight ends and stuff like that to make any kind of run effective. But I think, 5 games is enough to tell us that just trying to pound the rock up the middle probably not going to be in the cards for this team this year.
No, it definitely is not. It's just way too predictable at times. And when you have a quarterback like Sellers, you should be able to do something a little bit different. Run the option occasionally. I think that would always be good. Fake the handoff. We saw that a lot on Saturday. So doing things that are just different and running out the middle, I think, are going to be good for this team.
And we're considering this a rivalry now, right? With Kentucky, this is a thing. We see them every year. This is a rivalry, right?
I would wager to say yes, probably.
It has, and I always enjoy perusing KSR and stuff like that around the Carolina game, because those guys are unique characters, to say the least. And you can tell how much this loss bothers them, right?
Oh, it ticks them off.
One article yesterday by Jack Pilgrim.
Oh, my God.
Their KSR today is entitled, "No, Kentucky Still Can't Be Mr. Sunglasses." This is really bugging them.
And how is that a story? I'm sorry, but and I know it's a fan site, and trust me, they put the fan in sight. But it's, I don't know. KSR to me is not real journalism at all. It's just a blog at that point, honestly.
They wrote the article Saturday or Sunday, I guess it was, about Beamer potentially listening to them because of the interview they had with their special teams coordinator that made the quip about Beamer ball only being a Virginia Tech thing, which Beamer then referenced after the game when talking to Cole Kublik, or not after the game, maybe after maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter, whenever it was, after he had done the fake punt, and was asked about that, and he made the thing of, hey, it's Beamer ball. And so their conclusion was, well, Beamer must watch our show then, which I would go off the theory that somebody else heard it or saw it and sent him the clip of it and was like, hey, here's what they said about you. I don't think Beamer goes out of his way to listen to an hours of KSR even leading up to the Kentucky game. That's just my theory, at least.
Definitely not. He's not. No, somebody totally sent him that video. I would be shocked if Shane actually went onto KSR's site and looked that up. I don't know. He would have had to have heard about it.
But going back to the aspect of this, I feel like being more of a rivalry than it's ever has been is because you get the enjoyment of seeing the other fan base squirm a little bit, right? You want, when you talk about rivals, you want to see the other fan base suffer. when South Carolina beats Clemson like they did last year and did 2 years ago up there at Memorial Stadium, you want to go to like Clemson Twitter. You want to go to their message boards. You want to see them freaking out about the fact that they lost to you. And I kind of get the same vibes with Kentucky a little bit.
Yeah, no, I would say so. It feels like that for sure, honestly. And with Kentucky and the whole KSR thing, look, I mean, Kentucky is going to be in for a long year, I think. I mean, they just looked really bad on Saturday at times. I mean, they look like the worst team in the SEC, and it doesn't help that they have a young quarterback who is getting his feet wet right now and kind of going through what is going to be some tough times coming up here.
Yeah, no doubt. And for as I don't know if underwhelming is the right word, as frustrating as the start of the season has been for South Carolina, you at least see the upside potential of where things could be in the back half of the season. Hey, you play your better football, got tough opponents, but you could see a path where South Carolina does some really good things down the stretch. If I'm looking at Kentucky, I don't know where I see the positives, right? And depending on who you ask, you're either stuck with Mark Stoops for a very long time, or you're about to fire him, and that buyout is insane. So I'd probably venture to say they're stuck with him for a while. So it's like, where does your optimism come from?
They're not firing him. I mean, we're talking about like $30 million. Like that's a lot of money to say, yeah, we're gonna get rid of him. Like,
and it would be due immediately too. There's no drawn out process. Like, no, you'd have to cut them a check, I think within like 30 days.
No, that's the problem. That's the problem. Kentucky definitely has buyer's remorse right now, but you're stuck with him. And how much longer is on that deal, like year-wise?
Oh, it's not all that long ago that he signed that deal.
He signed it, 2 years ago?
It wasn't.
Because it was when A&M was going to hire him, but then they ended up hiring Elko instead, right?
So it was the year before that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so he flirted with A&M at the end of 2023, but he signed his extension in November of 2022. I'm trying to see what that runs through. Sorry, I'm scrolling here, but it's got several more years on it. I know that much. And again, the buyout is insanely high. And I told, current deal through June of 2031. Oh, wow. So, yes, and they would owe him 75% of his remaining salary through the end of the agreed upon terms. They fired him after this season. $40.5 million is what it would take. And
yeah, that's not going to happen.
I theorized to Terry, I said, they must have negotiated this contract at like a Kentucky basketball game where all the executives and like the AD were distracted by the more important sport there. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll sign whatever. And they got away with this because what a deal. Like, hats off to Mark Stoops and his agent for pulling this one off, because that was impressive.
Highway robbery.
It really is.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and look, he could basically be the mayor of Kentucky at this point. I mean, like, he owns Kentucky right now. I mean, there's just like nothing that they can do. I mean, maybe some big booster or donor will come up with $40.5 million to fire him, but like I don't know, man.
Well, but here's the thing: if you're a booster and you have that much money, would you rather fire your football coach or pay to have an elite basketball roster?
Exactly. That's the thing. And that's the dilemma Kentucky's in, because if they were to pay that buyout, don't you think it massively affects how they have to spend money in other sports?
Absolutely. Other sports, mainly basketball.
Mainly basketball.
Yeah.
Basketball is their bread and butter. I mean, that is who they are at the end of the day. And I mean, shoot, you affect their precious basketball program. It's going to be I don't even want to know what the reaction would be like there.
Kentucky definitely not in a good spot when it comes to football as of right now. Got to get to some bye week grades for position groups coming up in just a minute. But first, we got to hit our Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. Now that we've gotten into the bye week, we're going to go position group by position group coming up next and give our grades on what we think these guys have done so far through 5 games. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Tuesday on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher come here with you on your Tuesday on the game. Don't forget, coming up a little bit later on in this hour, your next chance to win $1,000 with our national cash contest. Just be listening out for that next keyword. And when you hear that keyword, of course, you have to text it to 95819 for your chance to win $1,000. We do it 5 times a day. Next chance coming up a little bit later on this hour, so stay tuned for your next chance to win our national cash contest. Since we're on a bye, perfect time to hand out some grades. What we've seen through the first 5 weeks of the regular season so far for South Carolina. I guess we should establish what our grading scale is here, because we've had this discussion before that apparently the way things are graded now is different than when either one of us were in school a handful of years ago.
Yeah, so typically, like, we doing numbers or we're doing letter grades, right?
Well, we're doing letter grades, but I feel like we need to also give the context of the numbers that correlate with those.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, when I was growing up, like, 90 to 100 was an A, 80 to 89 was a B, 75 to 79 was a C, 70 to 74 was a D, and 69 and below was an F.
There you go. I think that's fair.
Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think you said it was different for you. Like the D's were like 70, like 60s were D's or something like that.
No, I don't. I'm trying to remember.
Maybe that was somebody else.
Yeah, maybe it was someone else. But typically, the way it was usually like you said, kind of that like 10-point grading scale, I think, is what they had. So
yeah, I don't know why the C's and D's are split into 5s, but that's how we did it for some reason.
Yeah, so weird.
But we'll go with that at least. So you at least have some context to what these letters correlate to. So we'll go position group by position group here, starting off with, of course, the most important position group, that being quarterback. Now, we have seen both Lenore Sellers and Luke Doty this season, but this is more of a grade on Lenore Sellers than it is Luke Doty. Your grade of the quarterbacks through 5 games so far?
I'd go B-.
Okay.
I think overall it's been good, not amazing. Like, Lenore's has had some good moments, but we also have to take into account Luke Doty did play quarterback for South Carolina that entire second half against Vanderbilt, and I was not too impressed. He did what he could, not too impressed though. And there's also some times where Sellers made some decisions that I'm just like, you got to get rid of that ball, man. Like, do something different, you know. But he has played a lot better as of late, and honestly, maybe B- is a little too harsh. You know, I'll actually just go a straight up B.
Okay.
I think that's a little bit more fair because we're talking about being on the verge of a C at that point. So give me a B with the quarterbacks.
Okay, so kind of like that 85-ish, kind of right there in the middle type thing. I think that's fair. And look, it goes without saying, if you don't have Lenore Sellers, this team's a whole lot worse off, right? Like, Sellers was the primary reason why you were even in the game against Missouri a couple weeks ago, considering the fact you had no run game, your defense couldn't make tackles. Sellers' arm is the reason why you had a chance to win that game late. Unfortunately, came up short, but you were still in it nonetheless. It was great to see him finally get back to being himself a little bit when it came to running the football this past weekend. And, okay, yeah, that was against what's maybe the worst defense in the SEC, so I don't know if that's going to be a consistent thing going forward or not, but it was nice to see him kind of return to form a little bit. Again, is it him overthinking things when he's staying in the pocket too long? I don't know. There's certainly still room to improve, but again, 16. If you, in case you had forgotten, 16 reminded you how special he was this past weekend.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Move on to running backs now. I feel like this is going to be a pretty low grade again. You haven't had consistent rushing from them at all so far this year. You were in the negative, which that did have to do with Sellers getting sacked a lot against Missouri. But still, we've not been able to rely on these running backs at all through 5 games so far this year.
D+. They have been very not so good. And look, I know they scored 3 touchdowns this past weekend, but even in my grading the Gamecocks I do every week on GC, I gave them a C. But so when you account for the entire season and you just see how inconsistent they've been and just not productive enough, yeah, easy enough to give them a D+.
I may even go D- because I feel like the expectations were fairly high, right? Like, I think you saw last year when you have a capable running back with rocket standards, even behind not the best offensive line, you can still be really productive, which is what Rocket Sanders was in his 1 year here at South Carolina. We looked at Rasul Faison after he finally got clear, like, okay, man, okay, you got your RB1, you got your feature back. This is going to be the guy that's going to tote the rock more than anybody else. And you know, can he replicate the success that he had a year ago at or the past couple of years out there at Utah State? And we just haven't seen it. I mean, he's had a couple of notable runs. He had the 33-yard run against Virginia Tech in week number 1, where, you know, made a guy miss in the backfield and tore off a big run there. Obviously had a couple touchdown runs the other night, but I mean, outside of that, his highlights are definitely few and far between. And it's to the point now where you can see the coaching staff is trying to see if something clicks with one of these other guys, considering how many carries we're seeing from Matthew Fuller, Oscar Attaway. Like, I'm not saying they're giving up on Rasul Faison, but they're not seeing enough out of him to say, all right, we're just going to keep giving to this guy. He's going to break off eventually. Like, no, now you're just kind of in a 3-back rotation, it feels like.
Yeah, it just has not been what you signed up for necessarily. Now, again, Faison did have 2 touchdowns the other day, but, like, come on. He had 20-something yards on the ground. When your supposed top 2 running backs are only rushing combined, mind you, those 2 guys combined, rushing for 1 more yard than a redshirt freshman who didn't get into the game really till the 4th quarter, that's a problem. I mean, you got real issues right now in the run game. And look, you could say what you will about the blocking up front and how they're not doing their part with the offensive line. Okay, I understand that. You need holes to run through. But at the end of the day, there has been good blocking at times. It just, the running backs, for whatever reason, have not been able to kick it into gear this season.
Moving on to wide receivers and tight ends, we kind of grouped these guys together. I don't know, man. Because it's not been like bad necessarily. They've been fine. And again, this also correlates with Lenora Sellers because he's the one that has to get the ball to them. We've seen some drops. We've seen some bad throws. I don't know. Where do you go with this?
This is a tough one because there have been some good moments. There's also been some struggles. I would say C+. C+ feels about right. Nick Harbor had that good game to start the year. Should have had a 2nd touchdown and over 100 yards receiving. Dre Jacobs has been a star with 2 100-plus yard games over the last 2 weeks. Donovan Murph's done some good things. Not lately, though. Brian Rowe had a good game against Missouri 2 weeks ago now. So, I mean, there's been more good than bad. And when you group the tight ends in, that makes it tricky. If it was wide receivers alone, I'd probably actually just go with the C+. I'll probably have to knock it down to about a C with the tight ends factored in just because they have not been as impactful, I don't think. And honestly, the blocking, too, has not been there. So, yeah, about a C feels right.
I might go B- just because I think we're finally seeing a wide receiver emerge from that group, that being Vendrevious Jacobs, 200-yard games in back-to-back weeks, and it had been over a year and a half since we had a 100-yard receiver against an FBS opponent at least. So you're finally seeing him kind of establish himself. I do think, because, I mean, outside of game number 1, Harbor hasn't done a ton, right? He's had catches here and there, but he hasn't taken over in the way that we thought he would. But you do have somebody that is kind of emerging as that wide receiver one, which is nice to see. The whole group's they've been fine. You said like what you see out of Brian Rowe, Donovan Murphy, the young guys that are coming along, certainly. Mazio Bennett's kind of losing his time to Brian Rowe, it seems like. But yeah, they've been okay. But there's still room to improve.
Yeah, no, there definitely is room to improve. And again, I would go a little bit higher if we were just talking about the receivers. But when you do factor in the tight ends, the production just hasn't been where you would hope it would be for that kind of group. That's always been usually a factor in the offense.
Real quick here before we hit a break, offensive line.
Ah, man. Well, let's give them an F now. I'm not giving them an F because they haven't been playing a little bit better than I think they get credit for. Let's just go with like a D. I mean, they have not been good, haven't been great. The highest grade I've given them this year on grading the Gamecocks is typically about a C.
Okay.
But more times than not, I've given them a D or an F. So let's go with a D right in the middle there.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of room to improve. You're also dealing with injuries right now, which is obviously not great. I've been very disappointed with where we thought just like Josiah Thompson would be this season. Hasn't been there. You're just having to
He was
rotate.
better, though, this past
He
weekend.
was better this past weekend. You had to rotate a lot of guys in the interior the past couple weeks. Injuries also didn't help out with that. It's just, you don't have anything consistent right now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, no, totally. So I feel like the offensive grades need to be a lot better, but that's what you got the rest of the season for.
We'll hit the defensive side of the ball coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you on your bye week Tuesday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. A reminder, the Loyola-Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest rolls on. There'll be $400 up for grabs next weekend when Carolina takes on LSU. So head on to 1075thegame.com and register if you've not already for the Loyola-Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest. We'll get to special teams in a moment, by the way, as we're doing our bye-week grades for South Carolina. Now that we've seen 5 games so far, we head over to the defensive side of the football, and like I did with wide receivers and tight ends, we'll group the defensive line and the edge room together. I think we saw the best performance out of this group, certainly this past weekend, really out of the edges. They were getting after Cutter Bully that entire game. Obviously, Carolina has had its struggles stopping the run, and a lot of that does have to do with what's happening right up front there with the defensive line. Again, a lot of talent in that room. You've seen good things out of Gabriel Brown-Ludinley. Obviously, Dylan Stewart kind of reemerged on Saturday with his performance against Kentucky, as did everybody in that room. Brian Thomas Jr., Desu, JT Gear, all that kind of stuff. So probably one of the more promising units on this team, I would say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would probably give them just the way they played throughout the year. And again, it hasn't always been consistently like at what it was the other day, but they've had performances that have been really solid this year. So I'm going to go with an A. I feel good.
Okay.
I feel good about saying that. I mean,
now we're talking about the D-line and edge room.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So you combine, and I already do combine those two together when I do the grade in the Gamecock. So it's a little bit easier to kind of like look back at what grades I've had for them. And I've had a few A's. I think I gave them an A this past weekend. So I'm going to go A overall. I just feel good about what they've done collectively. And could it be better? Sure. I mean, that's why there's still room to get an A plus eventually.
What's the lowest grade you've given this group?
That's maybe, I think I gave them a D over the Missouri weekend.
Okay.
I think that's what I did.
Okay.
So, but honestly, everyone kind of got pretty low grades.
Yeah, it's kind of bad across the board. For the sake of averages, I won't quite say an A. I'll probably go B here. A lot of promise. Obviously looked good this past weekend. Areas to improve, particularly when it comes to stopping the run. And again, you're going to face a lot better rushing teams than what you saw this past weekend against Kentucky. So I can't forget that part yet. Again, I like what I've seen out of the edge group, but I do want to see a defensive front that can be consistent when it comes to stopping the run, and that is an area that I do think is still, has room to improve as time goes on, hopefully.
100%. No, I agree with you. Now, flipping over to the linebackers, I can't give them that high of a grade. Let's just say this. The linebackers had a good first game of the year, but it's kind of been hit or miss since then, right? And I don't know how exactly to grade them. I would say somewhere around like a C plus. I think they haven't been as good as I thought they were going to be.
Hey, and I think C plus is fair because this was the heart and soul of this team last year in the middle of that defense. Demetrius Knight, by the way, shout out to him. First career interception last night on Monday Night Football. Debo Williams, Bam Martin Scott, like this was the soul of your defense a year ago, and all three of those guys played their respective roles really, really well. And I think you mentioned that first game against Virginia Tech. We set our expectations really high based on what we saw in that game. You know what I mean? Those guys were flying around. J.R. Johnson was making plays. Justin Okoronkwo, Sean Murphy. Those guys were everywhere. And like, hey, man, this linebacking unit looks like they haven't skipped a beat. Now, we obviously know in hindsight, Virginia Tech is really bad, and that's why they fired, Britt Pry a couple weeks ago. And again, like you said, it's been very hit or miss, and I'm looking at the numbers here. The two leading missed tacklers on the season are Fred Johnson and Sean Murphy. So not a great thing for your linebackers to be missing the most tackles on the team, so far this year. So a lot of area to improve. I'd probably go, high C plus? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all right, you've shown us some good. You've shown us some not so good. I'm hoping, and again, this is a group that is not nearly as experienced as it was a year ago, so you do have to take that into account. So room to improve. Obviously, you see the potential in J.R. Johnson, but yeah, it's not a finished product yet.
I'm struggling to figure out how I would grade the DBs Now we include the safeties in this too, right? So
Yes, all DBs.
I don't know. They've been all right, I guess. I mean, pretty good this past week. I would say this past weekend was probably one of their better performances. Where do you lean with this?
Man.
Like this is a tough one to grade
Yeah.
because there's been some good. They've had a couple interceptions. Gerald Kilgore's been pretty good. Cissay's been pretty good. But then you've also had, like, we can't forget that they've had so many missed tackles this year.
That doesn't help.
No.
And like you look at the numbers, they're about middle of the road in the SEC when it comes to pass defense. I mean, no team has really like lit South Carolina up through the air, so that's a positive. Now that probably also helps given the fact that teams that run the ball in South Carolina so well, so they hadn't really needed to light them up through the air. So I think, and like the coverage is good for the most part. They've lost some of those 50-50 balls going back to beginning of the season, but like I've never looked at the defensive back room at any point this year and been like, oh, these guys are atrocious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like a C, kind of that range. Maybe a B minus.
Yeah,
actually.
maybe B minus. And again, they've got what? Now I know. Well, so JR got the interception in the first game.
Yeah.
So that's one not to DBs.
Yeah.
The other 5, though, I believe have all been DBs,
Let's
right?
see. So Kilgore twice now.
Kilgore twice.
You had Cissay.
Cissay.
One time.
Jalen got 1, right?
Did he? Let's see.
Did he get 1?
I'm looking at the stats right now. Let's see. INTs. Jo got 1.
That's right. Just so 2.
Peyton Williams got 1.
Peyton Williams, so 2 linebackers.
Yes.
And then the rest of you. So you've gotten 4 interceptions through 5 games. That's really good.
Yeah.
And obviously had the one pick 6 by Kilgore. So yeah, I B minus, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, teams have figured out they can just run on South Carolina, so that puts less emphasis on having to pass as much as they want to. So yeah, as we kind of thought, the defensive back room would probably be one of the strengths of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of room to improve, but not awful through the first couple of games.
Not too bad. Special teams, they have probably been South Carolina's most consistent group. Shane Beamer was disappointed with their performance on Saturday, though, and quite frankly, I think it was their worst performance of the year so far. But they've had really good games to start the year. I would probably go with like an A, I think, overall. I think they've been very solid. One bad game is not going to totally affect it. And even at that, they had some good moments last week against Kentucky, but there was just more bad than good in that game.
2 missed field goals. I can't quite go an A for myself. I do think Mason Love is probably one of the most underrated players on this team right now, considering the way that he's been punting. And he put another one inside the 5-yard line this past weekend. There's a lot of issues with this team, so I don't talk about it as much. But I've been very impressed with Mason Love so far this year, and of course Vakari Swain, what he did in the first 2 games, unbelievable. I haven't really had any notable returns since then, but that set the bar pretty high. You know what? Maybe for just Swain solely, maybe I can't go A.
I would.
The missed field goals still bother me. But, man, having 3 punt return touchdowns that drastically altered those 2 games when he did those in, yeah, okay, fine. I'll probably go A minus then.
Real quick, I know it's position groups, and I always grade coaching.
Yep.
How would you grade the coaching staff?
Oh, man, as a whole?
Just as a whole.
Ooh. What's C plus?
Yeah.
C minus?
I would go about a C, I think.
A lot of that is offensive, which has not been great. I thought, Spurt in this past weekend, Clayton White, great defensive game plan. Some of the decision making, like I didn't agree with the 4th and 12 on Saturday.
Yeah.
A lot of room to improve. I'll say that much.
Yes.
So there's your assessment of all the position groups and coaches as well, which shows you, hey, there's a lot of areas on this team that can hopefully get better as the season goes along, and that's what we're certainly banking on.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll have to give our final grades at the end of the year.
We definitely will.
We'll see how much they actually improve.
We will. We'll come back, wrap up the hour. We found out the kick time for LSU. Does that make you feel better or worse? With that coming up next, it is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday. By the way, your next chance to win $1,000 coming up in just a second here on the game. Welcome back in, Extra Point. It's Howard Head and Jack Beltry along with you, wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Tuesday. Real quick, and the Major League Baseball postseason starts today, by the way, with the Wild Card Series getting rolling, starting with the Tigers and Guardians at 1 o'clock on ESPN. John on the live stream has a message for you, Jack. He says, screw the Yankees. Not a Red Sox fan, just hate the Yankees. So there you go.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate it, John. I do. You know, I'm ready to hear all that stuff throughout the next few days. And, man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous because you guys know, Mike Uva, my good friend and former GC colleague who's now at Coastal, he hasn't texted me much this week, but I know I'm going to be chirped real bad if the Yankees don't handle business against the Red Sox starting today and then moving forward. So, guys, you may not hear from me much if the Yankees don't win if they're out of the playoffs after this wild card round. We'll see.
I look forward to your back and forth with him on Twitter no matter how the next couple of days go, because it's always entertaining one way or the other.
But here's the good thing about, and honestly, the Yankees have a much harder path to get to the World Series this year compared to last season where they just had to go through the AL Central and stuff and beat the Royals and the Guardians and whatnot. This year you got to be able to beat the Red Sox in a wild card series, and then you play Toronto in the division series and go to Toronto first if you get there. And honestly, those are two of the most toxic fan bases in all of sports, and the Yankees are too, obviously.
Sure.
But beating those two teams to just make it to the championship series and then to the World Series, hopefully after that would feel pretty sweet. So, harder path, but if that's what it takes to get there, I'm all here for it.
Wild card starts today. Tigers, Guardians at 1, Padres and Cubs at 3, Red Sox, Yankees at 6, and then Reds and Dodgers tonight at 9 o'clock. Those are best of 3 before moving on to the divisional series. We found out yesterday, Carolina, in their next game, a week and a half from now, taking on LSU. Unfortunately, it will indeed be some form of a night game. It'll be either a 7:30 or 7:45 kick between ESPN, ABC, or the SEC network. I have a pretty strong feeling that it's going to be like a 7 p.m. ESPN kick, because I believe Georgia and Auburn are also in that fluid night slot. And that, to me, probably screams like 7:30 ABC. So I probably think Carolina and LSU, 7 o'clock on ESPN.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking it up just to double check back. There's one other game that's listed as, here we go, Florida Texas A&M is the other game that's in that 3-time window slot. So
doesn't that just sound like an SEC network game?
That does. That sounds like a 7:45 kick. I don't know. I would wager to say, so the ABC kick is probably going to be 7. What time is ABC kick?
So
7:30?
ABC is 7:30, ESPN is 7, and then the SEC network is 7:45.
Personally, I think the better game to do the ABC game for is South Carolina LSU.
Okay.
Just because of what happened last year.
Okay.
And the fact that it's on the road at Tiger Stadium. Auburn's been scuffling lately, and it's a good rivalry between Georgia and Auburn, but that to me sounds tailor-made for about a 7 p.m. ESPN kick. But regardless, Carolina playing at night, I don't think we're surprised that this is a night game by any means.
No, I was kind of hoping you'd avoid it.
But there's no avoiding it. And look, honestly, to beat LSU at their best, you got to do it at night. So, and LSU hasn't been playing great. But I think you can go out there and give them a good fight, I think, for sure.
I'll say for those that are going as fans in attendance, you'll get to see Tiger Stadium at its best, because that is what it's built for, playing at night, all that kind of stuff. Now, for Carolina's chances, I would have much preferred a 3:30 kick or 4:15 SEC network or whatever it may be. But, you deal with the cards you get dealt, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a cool experience being there. I would say that. I'd rather this game be at night and get the full experience than it be an afternoon kick. And you know what? We'll get plenty of afternoon kicks throughout the rest of the year. It'll start the following week when Oklahoma comes to town. That'll be like a noon or 1 o'clock kick. So I can deal with that. But, yeah, as far as this being a night game, it'll be tough. It's always tough winning there at night. But it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It has been done before.
Yeah, and LSU not looking their best right now. So maybe you can take advantage of that. They are struggling to score 20 points themselves at times. So first to 24 may win this one.
Yeah. So, and look, South, like they're both on bye weeks, so they'll get right for next week. But I would expect South Carolina to come in here, put up a good fight, and maybe come out of there with a win. You never know.
So we'll find the official start time for that game at the beginning of next week, but just know we'll be under the lights in Baton Rouge coming up on October the 11th. We'll get into the things that we missed from the college football weekend coming up next as hour number 2 comes up at the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here in your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Crant Schooling Heating. Tyrant and Jack Belcher along with you today. Chris Clark feeling under the weather, so we'll ride with you for the next hour here. Of course, so much happened this past weekend in college football, Jack. We didn't get a chance to get to everything. Obviously, we had the Carolina game. We had the headliners of Georgia versus Alabama, Penn State versus Oregon, but a lot of good, I guess you would consider undercard type of games that also took place this weekend that we just didn't get a chance to really dive into, that really highlights how fun of a weekend of football it was overall.
It was a pretty good weekend. And honestly, I think it was probably one of the more hyped weekends we had coming into the week, just because there were so many ranked, unranked matchups, a lot of good SEC games, as we'll get into here. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good week of college football, if I do say so.
Let's start out in College Station, Texas, where Mike Elko, despite winning, got a little testy with the reporters after the game.
Does anybody want to ask a question about, like, us being 4-0 for the first time since 2016, or how did the defense bounce back, or how about you held them to 176 yards on offense and you had 5 sacks and they were 0 for 12 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down and you got the return game going again? Like, I don't mean to sound like someone else, but my gosh, will you guys stop being so dreadful and gloomy?
Well, we're only halfway through this.
Yeah. Next one.
Now, I think that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Also, I love the shade being thrown at Brian Kelly there. But have we just not been talking about A&M enough so far this year? They are 4-0 for the first time in a decade, as he alluded to there. And they pick up the 16-10 win over Auburn on Saturday. They're number 9 in the country, and I feel like they're just kind of flying under the radar.
They're number 6 now.
Well, they were 9 on Saturday, number 6 now.
Yeah, number 6 now. So they've jumped up quite a bit. I mean, look, A&M's been playing good. They had the big win over Notre Dame, then the bye week, and then beat Auburn. And Auburn hasn't looked too great lately, so, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt there. But, look, A&M's 4-0 for the first time since 2016. Like Elko said, the thing we're going to have to see, though, is can A&M sustain this? Because they never have been able to get to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game. You would think a school like A&M, with all its history and all that money they have, would be able to finally put it together. And we'll see if this is the season. But, again, they'll have a little bit of some tough tests coming up. LSU, they'll have Texas at the end of the year, obviously going to Austin. But this is a good football team they have.
Yeah, and I guess maybe we weren't giving them enough respect because we are just waiting for the inevitable, here's 3 losses in a row, and suddenly you end up 8-4 like they did last year and have continued to do over the years. So maybe there's kind of the, until proven otherwise, you're just kind of an 8-4 program type of thing. On the other side, though, what a tough 2 weeks for Auburn. You heard Mike Elko allude to the stat there. They held Auburn to 177 total yards in this game. 0 of 13 on third downs. They were equally as atrocious on third down the prior week against Oklahoma. I don't know if anybody set the expectations that Auburn was suddenly going to be like in the mix for the SEC championship, but we expected them to be better this year, right? And through 2 conference games, it ain't looking like it.
No, it has not looked like it really at all. And don't forget, 0 of 2 on fourth downs as well. So 0 of 15 in third and fourth down spots in this game. And just not good enough. I think Jackson Arnold has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. 18 of 33, 125 yards passing. Nothing going in the run game. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to win when you throw for 125 yards and you rush for 52. Like Mike, like Elko said, you were well under 200 yards total in this game. Just not enough to win this football game by any stretch. Especially when on the other side, Marcel Reed's throwing for 200 yards. Le'Veon Moss is back and better than ever, 139 yards and a touchdown. Casey Concepcion, a guy that South Carolina could not get, had over 100 yards receiving in this game.
And you look at the stats, Jackson Arnold's been sacked 20 times through 5 games so far this year, and I think the easy conclusion is to say, well, the offensive line just must be terrible. And they're not great, but even Hugh Freeze will tell you, Jackson Arnold's holding on to the ball too long, and we obviously know that situation here with Lenore Sellers several times this season, but like Arnold, there's just something about he just cannot seem to find a way to get rid of the football, and that's detrimental when you're continually knocking your team further and further back.
Exactly. I mean, it's just has not been a good recipe for success at all for Auburn so far. And, you look at their schedule. Obviously, they're going to have Georgia coming up here in 2 weeks' time. They're on a bye this week. Then they get Missouri at home, and then they go to Arkansas, and then they go to Vanderbilt. And look at Kentucky, but still got Alabama at the end of the year. I mean, 3-2 right now. I mean, I think they're kind of in a similar spot to South Carolina where the schedule's not as tough, but are they going to be able to get towards that 6-win mark? Probably should be able to with Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mercer. But besides that, I don't know if they're winning a game in the rest of those games they have.
I know people in Starkville, Mississippi don't want to hear this, but if there was a moral winner from this weekend, it has to be the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They hosted Tennessee and took them to the absolute limit. Went to overtime, lost at 41-34, but my hat's off to Jeff Lebby because it is very clear this is a leaps and bounds better version of Mississippi State than what we had a year ago.
Man, I felt so good about picking Mississippi State and staff picks. I thought I was going to get everyone with everyone else picking Tennessee, and I'm like, Mississippi State's going to do it, pull off the upset, and get another one right, but it just wasn't meant to be. I mean, look, Mississippi State is in a much better spot right now compared to where they were this time last year. I mean, I think Jeff Lebby's done a really nice job in year 2 here so far. They obviously have Blake Shapen back, who's been a big, impactful guy. You have Fluff Bothwell, who's
great name.
Yeah, what a name, by the way. 134 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And he even played pretty well against Joey Aguilar. I know he threw for over 300 yards, but he did have 2 picks. But that ground game for Tennessee also was just impactful in this game. When you have 200-yard receivers, you're going to have a pretty good chance to win this game. So Mississippi State looked pretty good at times. Not great. Giving up 41 points is not ideal. But you were in this game till the end. It's just someone had to lose.
Well, it's one of those things like Mississippi State isn't supposed to win this game yet, right?
No.
Like they had the upset against Arizona State, which was awesome. They were storming the field and all that kind of stuff. But as you get into conference play, there are games in the early tenure of head coaches that you look back and like, man, how did they lose that one? And then as years go by, you start to win these games, right? And we've seen it with everybody. And I think Jeff Lebby's going to point to this game as a real learning opportunity for his program and himself as a head coach. And I expect Mississippi State to be a very, very solid team in the conference this year. I mean, maybe like 8-4-ish type of thing, which would be a huge turnaround from where they were a year ago and have been for the past couple of years.
I mean, let's see. They go to Florida for the next game, Texas at home, at Arkansas, Georgia at home, at Missouri, home versus Ole Miss. I mean,
maybe 7-5, but still, that's better.
I think they'll probably win one of those ranked games at home. I would say. I think they'll beat Florida and Arkansas, and I mean, shoot, they're going to be going to a bowl game at the very least this year. I mean, that's a big step in the right direction for that program.
It definitely is. And again, keep your eye on Mississippi State because that's a program that could become very dangerous here in the next couple of years. So credit to them. Again, Tennessee, held on there. They've only got 1 loss, so all their goals are still in front of them. However, 2 teams that don't have losses, Missouri and Vanderbilt, are 5-0 right now to start the season. Vanderbilt is going on the road to Alabama. College Game Day is going to be there, and we are talking about a ranked versus ranked matchup between the Commodores and the Crimson Tide. It feels like an alternate reality. How did we get here?
I'm telling you, I think I said it yesterday. If we were saying this back in 2017 when Alabama and Vanderbilt played and it was 59-0 Alabama and Vanderbilt had no fans there at that game or whatever, if you would have told a fan that long ago that game day would be here for this type of game in 2025, I think everyone would be shell-shocked. I mean, Vanderbilt has been off to a really nice start this year. Obviously, not a great performance against Utah State this past weekend, and Alabama's coming in off of probably their best win of the season so far. I mean, this is one of those games where I think Alabama started out as a 2-touchdown favorite in this one. The line has dropped now to under 10. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Vanderbilt's going to be counted out again, obviously, but would not be shocked at all if they won this game.
By the way, you said not such a great performance against Utah State. They scored 55 points, gave up 35.
But they gave up 35. That's how I look at it.
But if you would have gone back 5 years ago and told a Vanderbilt fan, hey, in a couple years you're going to be disappointed by putting up 55 points against Utah State, they would have taken that. They said, oh, hey, yes, please sign me up for that.
But again, not disappointed in the fact they gave up 55 points. It's disappointing you get 35 points to Utah State. So, and again, you were kind of in a nip and tuck type of game for that entire first half, honestly. So, But now Vandy's off to a really good start this year. I mean, look, they win on Saturday. I mean, they're going to be bowl eligible. You know, that's 6-0 on the year. So off to a really good start this year. But I mean, I know Alabama's going to have revenge on their minds after what happened last year.
Are we prepared for a potential 6-0 top 10 Vandy team? Has that thought ever crossed your mind?
No.
Now, it's not going to be easy because Alabama looked really good against Georgia. But, like, just imagine for a second what that would be like if Vanderbilt had a 2-game win streak on Alabama, one of those being in Bryant-Denny, likely vaulted themselves into the top 10, and were 6-0 on the season.
Just crazy to think about it. That it could be a possibility after this weekend. I mean, oh, man, that would be. And to beat Alabama back-to-back years, too, I mean, that would be wild to think about.
Crazy stuff. Alabama, by the way, number 10 in the AP poll after beating Georgia, skyrocketing up from the 17th spot. Ole Miss, the highest-ranked team in the SEC at number 4, Oklahoma at number 5, A&M at number 6, Texas at number 9, and then Alabama at number 10. So you still have half of the top 10 being occupied by SEC teams, though, as of right now, none of the top 3, Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami, still at the very top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not too bad.
Elsewhere, outside of the top 10, Georgia at 12, LSU at 13, Tennessee at 15, Vandy at 16, Missouri at 19, and that's that's it. That's it for the SEC in the top 25. So conference still very well represented. By the way, I think I saw the stat first time in, maybe I think since 1947 that Vandy and Virginia are ranked at the same time, because Virginia's 24
Crazy.
after beating Florida State.
Do we even talk about that game yet?
We mentioned the field storming, or the avalanche, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
What a game that was.
Oh my God! I think we talked about this on Saturday, you and I, when we were at the game. But man, what a game that was! And just again, I've never seen anything like that before, where you just don't have any barriers separating the student section. By the way, I did not know this, so I was watching a video yesterday. Have you seen G-Fed?
No.
No? Okay, he goes to all these different stadiums and stuff.
Yeah, I know that guy.
He was at South Carolina this past weekend.
Yeah, so I haven't watched the video yet, but I saw he posted it.
So he was at Virginia on Friday for that game, and he got down into what I thought was the student section. Apparently, that section on the hill, any fan can go into.
Okay.
So it's just crazy that they have no barriers there. And they were having over like 5,000 people in that one section of the stadium. It was... I'm glad Squirrel White is okay, though. That's the main thing.
He disappeared into the sea of UVA fans. And outside of the dude that flipped off Castellanos and filmed himself doing it,
what a loser that guy is.
I didn't hear of anything else too egregious happening, which is good, because you do worry, like, oh, man, you got tens of thousands of people on a field. What are they going to do to the other team? But it sounds like Florida State escaped. Dignity a little bit hurt, but otherwise okay.
And is Florida State kind of back to reality now a little bit, back to earth a little bit, or?
I think any road game on a Friday night's tricky. Like we talked about before the season, Clemson going to Louisville on a Friday in November. We circled that as, hey, watch out, that could be trouble. So, not that I excuse it, but like those are the games that typically trip these kind of teams up. I think Florida State will be back to themselves this weekend against Miami. It's gonna be a huge matchup, by the way. But I don't. Not that I excuse it, but like I see how those kind of things happen in those kind of situations.
No, totally.
We'll hit some of the other highlights from the weekend in college football we didn't get a chance to get to yesterday, as the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating, rolls along on your Tuesday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Tuesday here on the game. Going back through the weekend that was in college football and hitting the things we didn't get a chance to hit yesterday. Pretty spirited game early on in the day between two ranked opponents. Southern Cal going on the road to Illinois. Still weird saying this is a conference game, but a 11 a.m. local kick, which would have been a 9 a.m. kick for Southern Cal. Leading up to this game, Lincoln Riley talked about they were having to change like sleep schedules and routines and all this kind of stuff. So you kind of had a feeling this might end up being a problem for Southern Cal, and they was still a tight game, and they had the lead down to the very end when Illinois kicked a last-second field goal to win it. So I guess, kind of expected this to look a little bit worse for Southern Cal. So props to them for at least making it a game, because that's tough. They played a late game the week before against Michigan State, and then going on the road again halfway across the country, more than halfway, to play Illinois on a early kick. That's not easy.
As soon as I heard Lincoln Riley say that, I should have flipped my pick on staff picks, because I did pick Southern Cal for this game, and boy, do I regret it. I mean, look, both quarterbacks played really well in this game, both over 300 yards. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, this is a game that came down to Illinois making a field goal at the end. Southern Cal's a very good team still, but obviously going on the road, I mean, they're going to have to make a lot of these road trips, throughout the year now, where they got going to the East Coast and stuff and going out to the Midwest. I mean, they're going to have to be better adjusted, because this is not going to be the last time that they have to go out and travel that far.
Yeah, this kind of feels like a game between these two teams, or they're kind of fighting for, I don't know, maybe like the 6th spot in the Big Ten, right? I don't know if I buy either one of these teams as serious playoff contenders, certainly after Illinois got drugged by Indiana, the prior weekend. But this is a game where you're kind of in that middle tier, very, very similar level, I feel like, between these two opponents. And, again, credit to Illinois for bouncing back after that shellacking they took on the road at Indiana the week before.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois, that's a really good response right there, too. I think that also probably played part in it, on people doubting them this past weekend. I mean, you get walloped by as much as you did. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially on the road. But, you bounce back, and Illinois is still a very good football team. I mean, they had that win on the road at Duke, obviously just beat Southern Cal this past weekend. I mean, this is still a team that can go out there and win a lot. It's just still surprising to me that they got beat by that much, because, I mean, this is a team that won 10 games last year.
One game from over the weekend that you may not have gotten a chance to see, but I had a little bit of controversy with it was Georgia Tech going on the road to Wake Forest. Tech got down 17-3 at one point in this game, charged all the way back. But if we're being honest, did you see how this game ended, by the way? See what happened at the end of this?
I did not catch this game.
So, of course, Robbie Ashford, quarterback for Wake Forest, they had a 23-20 lead late in this thing. Wake Forest has the ball. I think Georgia Tech was out of timeouts. They had an opportunity to run the clock out on a 3rd and 5. Georgia Tech very clearly jumps off sides. One of their edge rushers steps across the line. Wake Forest snaps the ball. Robbie Ashford, thinking he has a free play, chucks it down the sidelines to one of his receivers, thinking, hey, no consequences, right? The only problem was the officials did not call the flag, so incomplete pass. They punt the ball on 4th and 5. That also bought, considering the fact that Wake Forest didn't have a play that ran the clock, bought Georgia Tech about 40 more seconds, under 2 minutes. They drive down the field, kick field goal, send it into overtime. Tech scores touchdown and a field goal. Wake Forest would score a touchdown and then attempt the 2-point conversion in the first overtime, just try and win it then and there. Came up short. But Wake Forest should have won this game.
That's the gamble you take, though. I mean, not, you gotta just be. That's the risk right there. Not just with the 2-point conversion, obviously in the first overtime, which I get if you're Wake Forest, because you got a team like Georgia Tech on the ropes. Why not go out there and try to beat them? I would have done that maybe if it was in regulation at the end of the game. Why not go for 2? The first overtime feels a little overplayed, though.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where, again, you shouldn't have been in overtime anyway, because the officials would have gotten the call right. Georgia Tech would have lost right then and there. But I feel like it's one of those things that if you are already matching them anyway, why not force it to a second overtime? I mean, I get the idea of, hey, we're just going to go ahead and try and win it now, but like at the same time, sometimes you just got to live to fight another, at this point, possession in overtime, because when that blows up in your face and you lose that way, you're going to wonder, hey, what could have been? What if we did go to a second overtime or a third overtime or whatever it may be? Like, it's a tough one to swallow.
It is. And the other thing is that we have to think about, I mean, you would have to go for 2 in a second overtime anyway, right? So, I mean, yeah, I just didn't understand it there.
By the way, since we're talking about overtimes here, can we all agree the 2-point shootout thing is dumb?
You think it's dumb?
I don't like it. I hate it.
Okay, the 2-point shootout is it moves the game along, I would say, but I'm not a big fan of the NFL overtime rules. I think we need to change that to the way college does it.
So like an alternating possessions type of thing.
Yes, but like you start at the 25-yard line or whatever. I just think it's so silly that we still have ties in the NFL. Like I get it, player safety and all that, but it would be a much easier process to determine a winner if you kind of do it the way college does with the shootout at the 21-yard or 25-yard line.
I don't mind the NFL overtime as much now that both teams are guaranteed a possession. That's what bothered me so much for so many years. And look, my team lost the Super Bowl because the MVP never got to touch the ball in overtime because the way the rules were at that point in time. So at least now, like watching the Green Bay Dallas game on Sunday night, it didn't matter whatever happened. I think Dallas had the ball first when they went down there and scored because Green Bay was going to have a chance to possess the ball no matter what, which I like. By the way, I have a theory now that this is in the regular season. We're going to see a lot more ties because and the objective of overtime is obviously to score, but also to try and drain the clock as much as possible so your opponent doesn't have time to score because Dallas took off a ton of time
so much
on their
time
drive.
In that game, yeah.
To where it got to the point where Green Bay didn't have a whole lot of time to work with and obviously ended up, having to kick the field goal there to tie it in the end. So I have a theory that we're going to see a lot more ties in overtime because that clock evaporates so fast when one team has the ball that a lot of teams think they're going to be put in position to just try and tie the thing as opposed to win it like Green Bay did on Sunday.
But also just, did you catch the end of that game, the bad clock management there in the final seconds? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Like they could have, if I'm remembering correctly, they had third down, ran the ball, and then they just tried to kick the field goal. They threw a pass to the end zone, and 1 second was left on the clock.
Yeah, and he's lucky he got that second on the clock in to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love college overtime, and I just think we've kind of screwed it up to the point with this 2-point conversion thing because I don't know. I just feel like alternating possessions. If you maybe move the ball back further so teams aren't guaranteed to score like they are at the 25.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like the 2-point thing's dumb to me.
It's a little silly. I think you're right. Move it back a few yards and make it a little bit tougher, or
the 40. I don't know, something like that.
But they're also trying to get this game in, and that's one of the better ways to determine a winner, I guess. But to each their own.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it was fine the way that it was, and they're like, oh, we don't want 7 overtime games. Well, it didn't happen that often. You know what I mean? Most of these things were determined in the first 2 to 3 overtimes, which is fine. But it is what it is, and we can't change the rule right now, unfortunately. We'll get into other headlines of the college football weekend, including the new head coaching vacancy at Arkansas. Or is it a vacancy? Or is old Bobby Petrino just going to hang on to that job as long as he can? We'll hear what they had to say at the press conference to introduce Bobby Petrino as the interim head coach yesterday, coming up next as the as the Garden Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating rolls along on your Tuesday on the Game.
You were at the board meeting, and I gave you some statistics where our head coach compensation, our assistant coach salary pool, our support staff salary pool, and our overall operating budget ranked towards the bottom of the Southeastern Conference. I think with that information, Coach Pittman did not have the resources he needed to appropriately compete in this conference right now.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you on your Tuesday here in the game. That was the voice of Hunter Yurachek, who is the athletic director at the University of Arkansas, yesterday in the press conference he had to formally announce the firing of Sam Pittman and introduce Bobby Petrino as the new interim head coach after he been the offensive coordinator there the past 2 seasons. But that's an interesting comment that he made, where he basically outright admits Sam Pittman did not have the resources to succeed at Arkansas. As the athletic director, isn't that your job to make sure your coach has the resources to succeed?
Yeah, that's not a good look to be saying that, quite frankly. It's I can't believe that he said that. I mean, you're basically just saying that you left Sam in a very bad spot to work with, and he gets fired as a result of that. I mean, you're in the SEC. Money should not be an issue, especially at Arkansas. I mean, you got to be giving your guy a lot of money to work with, and obviously, and just resources in general. I mean, obviously, Arkansas. I've been to Arkansas. It's a beautiful stadium, nice facility they got there, but for whatever reason, I mean, just not getting the job done. And when you come out admitting something publicly like that, I think that plays a big part in it.
I feel like, in a way, that was his maybe not best explanation, or ways to say that the support was not there for Sam Pittman because, as the athletic director, I guess you can garner interest. But at the end of the day, if people are not writing checks because they don't believe in the head coach, then you can only do so much. So I feel like that was, and again, maybe not the best explanation, his way of saying we didn't have enough belief that Sam Pittman was going to be able to do the job, and that's why he didn't have the resources to compete and to win ultimately.
Yeah, and I mean, look, his tenure was inconsistent anyway. So, I mean, look, it's not what you want, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think we just have to accept the fact that Sam Pittman's not the best coach out there. I mean, he's a good dude, it seems like, but at the end of the day, you got to win football games, and Arkansas simply was not doing that.
So, in this 20-minute presser yesterday, of course, introduced Bobby Petrino and also mentioned that, hey, we're on the search for a head coach, and he mentioned that Bobby Petrino's name would be involved in that head coaching search. And when I hear that, I said, you're going to have to pry that job out of his hands. He is going to do everything that he can to ensure he's going to become the next permanent head coach in Arkansas. I believed that a year ago when he came in as the offensive coordinator. It smelled, because, here's the thing. Sometimes you smell a rat, right? And you look at something and say, that's kind of fishy. Bobby Petrino coming back to Arkansas, knowing that Sam Pittman was on the hot seat, he knew how this was going to go. He had to bide his time. Maybe it took a little bit longer because he probably thought, after last year, Uncle Sam was going to get the boot. They brought him back for another year. Season's not gone the way they wanted it to. They give him the boot, and guess what? A former head coach sitting right there as your offensive coordinator that can take over. This went exactly how Bobby Petrino planned it.
It's like you know the whole story here, man. I mean, you get the inside scoop on this, but no, I mean, look, it seems like it's going to be heading that way. Honestly, I mean, it would just be too good to be true that he wouldn't be the head coach coming up here. I mean, yeah, you got a guy like Rhett Lashley out there who went to Arkansas and stuff, but he's doing good things at SMU. Would he be pried away to come to Arkansas? I would say so. And how desirable is the job at Arkansas? I think that's the big question we all need to ask ourselves here. Is I don't think it's nowhere near the best job in the SEC. I don't think. I mean, and when your AD publicly comes out and says hey, Sam Pittman just did not have the resources to work with. All right, well, that might scare some people off from wanting to come work there because they don't want to be in the same exact boat where they're just not going to have the funds and the resources to build the program the way they see fit. But Bobby Petrino, I mean, look, he's been there. He's been the head coach there, and it would not shock me at all if he is the head coach there full-time after the season. But, again, you got to have success in the field this season to be able to do that. You got to be able to scratch off. How many wins do you think? What do you think Arkansas needs? Make a bowl game? I think that would probably be enough
for Petrino to hang on as the head coach. if you make a bowl game, I'd say that's a realistic possibility. Here's my thing, though, and we have to remember, in today's age, when a coach gets fired, your players are free to jump into the transfer portal.
That's the thing.
Like, and here's the thing. The reputation Bobby Petrino has, especially considering the fact that he fired pretty much the entire defensive staff the second he got the job, I imagine there's going to be some players that probably don't want to play for this guy. You know what I mean? So how much of a roster is he going to have to work with is my biggest question. By the way, they play Tennessee, A&M, Mississippi State, Auburn, LSU, Texas, and Missouri to close out the year. I don't see them getting to 6 wins personally.
No, neither do I. I mean, maybe 4 or 5, but and that would be, they're at what, 2 and 3 right now.
2 and 3. They'd have to win 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, look, that would be 3 wins right there if they could. I don't know. I mean, that's gonna be tough for them. I mean, I just don't see it, but
I don't either. That being said, this is now. By the way, I can never recall another year where we've had this many coaches fired in the first month. But we now have 4 head coaching vacancies, all one at each of the respective Power 4 conferences. You got Arkansas in the SEC, UCLA in the Big Ten, Oklahoma State in the Big 12, and Virginia Tech in the ACC. I mean, is Arkansas the best job out of these? Like, is that the most desirable job?
I would say so, because it's still in the SEC compared to these other conferences. Virginia Tech's interesting because I think I just saw something on Twitter where Virginia Tech's going to be having more money to work with for football moving forward, which is obviously what you want. If you're that program, you need to have more money.
But does more suddenly compete with like Florida State and Miami? Because you can have more.
Yeah.
If I gave you $5 and say I'm going to give you more, and suddenly I gave you $6, that's technically more, but that's still not a lot.
No, it's still not a lot. So I mean, Arkansas is probably the most desirable of these jobs just because it's in the SEC. Doesn't mean it's the best job out there, though. I mean, it's amongst these 4, it's probably the best. But I mean, if other ones come out there, especially in the SEC, like Florida would be a much more desirable job if Florida moves on from Billy Napier. I would say, think about if Kentucky, I think, fired Mark Stoops and that job became open. I think Arkansas and Kentucky would kind of be maybe on that same level of desirability, in my opinion.
I'd probably put Arkansas a little bit higher than Kentucky because in Arkansas, again, now that Calipari's there, is a basketball-esque type of school, but still football, I think, reigns supreme at the end of the day. Like Kentucky, it's unequivocally basketball over football. So I feel like you have an opportunity to get more resources at Arkansas as opposed to at Kentucky for football.
Yeah. Although those folks at Arkansas, they
take their basketball seriously.
They take basketball seriously, but they especially take baseball seriously.
They do.
Like,
they do.
Like baseball, I'll go out on a limb and say that's the best baseball atmosphere in the SEC for sure. Maybe in the country. I mean, it's legitimately like really, really good. So you can like those people care about their sports out there besides football.
I will say this. I think Oklahoma State, you have an easier path to success because of how wide open that conference is. Like, look, you're going to come in to Arkansas or UCLA. You're going to start at the bottom of the 2 toughest conferences in college football. For Oklahoma State, and yes, they need resources too. I feel like you can jump in and compete in the Big 12 a whole lot quicker than you can these other conferences, personally.
You definitely could. It would take time at Arkansas, I think, just because, I mean, their track record has not been too hot for definitely a few years now. But at Oklahoma State, the thing about Oklahoma State is, though, I mean, who would they hire? I think
hopefully Zach Robinson.
That would be the main thing. Depending on who they hire, I think is how quickly they can kind of get that thing turned around there, because it's going to be a process, no doubt.
Yeah. By the way, I think you have people here at Carolina clamoring for a Mike Gundy to be your OC and now Sam Pittman to be your offensive line coach.
Fever dream.
It's not going to happen.
No.
But I understand why people are feeling that way.
Maybe after the season, if you just decide not OC, I don't think. I think you're probably sticking with Shula for the next few years. But maybe if they decide to ever move on from Lonnie Teasley, then they can go out there and go get Uncle Sam.
I will say this. I was at Georgia when Uncle Sam was there. That is a darn good offensive line coach.
Yep. And Shane Beamer was at Georgia when Sam Pittman was there. So.
Yep. So But there's your 4 openings so far through the first month of the season, and we'll see who fills those respective spots at those schools. We'll come back, wrap up the Garnet Trust Hour. It is time for Oddities of College Football Week 5 edition. What weird things happened across this great and beautiful sport over the weekend? We'll hit that coming up next as the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating, rolls along in your Tuesday on the Game.
The 8th-ranked team in the country needs 12 yards to avoid the upset. Cavaliers with 3 down linemen. Castellanos in the shotgun. Virginia brings the blitz. Castellanos in trouble. Hit as he throws. Hangs it up towards the end zone. And it's intercepted! Virginia has done it! All heaven has broken loose! The kids of the Commonwealth swallow the field!
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Ed and Jack Belcher wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday. Time for the oddities of college football. Weird and crazy things that happened over week number 5. And, well, you got to start on Friday night. That was the call on the Virginia Sports Radio Network as UVA picks up the 46-38 double overtime win over at the time number 8 Florida State. And as the broadcaster said, the kids of the Commonwealth are on the field. I think the entire Commonwealth was on the field after that one in what might quite literally be the fastest field storming we've ever seen.
I mean, as soon as that ball went in the air to the end zone towards Squirrel White, Florida State receiver, transfer from Tennessee, as soon as that ball was knocked down, or I'm trying to remember, was it picked off?
It was picked off in the end zone.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Which it didn't really matter as long as it got Squirrel White didn't catch it, the game was going to be over because it was 4th and 12. If you go back and watch, the official hadn't even ruled interception yet. He hadn't waved his arms over his head, but everybody could see that it got picked off.
Yeah.
And boom, here comes the avalanche.
Oh my God, it was insane. And again, they don't have any gate, any hedges, no rope or anything. It's literally just the hill and the green grass ahead of them. Nothing separating those fans from storming the field. I mean, it was, quite frankly, they could do that anytime. I mean, they could do that any game they want. But for that game, I mean, that's one that's going to be, an easy sell to go ahead and storm.
I have a feeling there'll be some things put in place going forward, I would imagine, to try and make that a little more tame, right? Maybe a wall or a fence or something. Because, again, they were quite literally, because when the Florida State guy, one of the receivers, had bobbled the one that ended up getting overturned that they thought was a touchdown, he quite literally almost ran in to the crowd of students that were just standing there outside the end zone.
Have you ever seen anything like that before in terms of a stadium that you would think a stadium would have fenced all the way around or something? But I've never seen that before where there's just nothing separating those fans.
There's a lot more relaxedness at some of these ACC stadiums compared to the SEC. And UVA is a great example of that where, it's just not they never really had problems with it, I don't think. So it's what's the need to change? But after having that, they may want to put in some new protocols or something.
They probably will.
Elsewhere, we'll stick in the ACC. So Louisville taking on Pitt. Miller Moss throws an interception late in the first quarter. Pitt defensive back kind of goes to the sideline and ends up wrestling with the Louisville ball boy who's trying to get the ball away from him. Now, it was a Louisville football because they did throw the interception, but you have this weird visual of 2 Pittsburgh defensive backs essentially bullying this ball boy who's trying to get the ball back. Now, Louisville did end up winning the game. They had a funny social media post afterwards about that, but yeah, an odd sight if you just caught the clip of it between 2 Pitt players and Louisville's ball boy trying to wrestle for the football.
Bro was just trying to do his job, and those guys have to make it so much tougher on him. I kind of feel bad for that boy. He's getting yanked around and stuff. They're tossing the ball everywhere. Poor kid.
I don't condone them, shoving him around. I will say maybe he could have waited a moment because, quite literally, as the guy's coming off the field, he kind of tries to rip the ball out of his hand. So I feel like the ball boy maybe could have waited a second and then got the ball back. But I don't condone you as a football player, harassing or bullying somebody that's not on the field.
Yeah, but guy was just he probably could have waited a few minutes, but
Louisville got the win. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
They did.
I'm a sucker for a good long drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii had the drive of the weekend. They went 24 plays, 80 yards, taken on Air Force, by the way. 24 plays, 80 yards in 12 minutes and 14 seconds, and turned the ball over on downs at the Air Force. Let's see, where did this thing end up?
Well, it says they had a field goal on.
Oh no, they took it over with on downs, but it ended up being a field goal. That's right.
Yeah.
But man, you go that far, wasting that much time, you got to get a touchdown out of it, right?
I've never seen that before. A 24. How do you even get to 24 plays?
You do a lot of 2 and 3 yard gains.
Yeah, I guess that sounds
Dink
right.
and dunk and dink and dunk and dink and dunk. There's a way to do it.
Wonder how many penalties were on this drive.
That's a good question.
That's all that for a freaking field goal.
I love a good long time consuming drive, but a little bit bitter when you only come away with the field goal. Lastly here, Richmond defeats Howard 13-12 over the weekend, despite the fact that Howard outgained them by over 150 yards. The Richmond Spiders scored 13 points off 2 Howard turnovers. Howard outplayed them thoroughly in this game, but as we know here very well, the other facets of the game sometimes step up and help you win, and that's what happened for Richmond.
God, I'm just looking at the time possession on this, and I'm like, I can't believe Richmond won. But when you factor in the fact that they had 2 turnovers that they got points off of, I mean, that would make sense. I mean, Howard had the ball 41 minutes in this game. Richmond with 15 minutes. I mean, that's just that's oddity right there.
Definitely is. Jack, you're heading out for a couple days.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy some time off, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, man. See you next week.
Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll put some final thoughts on the win over Kentucky coming up next here on the game. 11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you here. Navigating you through the bye week as Carolina's got a little bit of time off for their next game on the road at LSU. Wes, did I hear you bragging about your picks once again this weekend out there with Jack? How did we do this past weekend?
I was not bragging. It was brought up, and then I took the opportunity to brag a little bit because
you were 10-0 the last week, right?
I was not 10-0 this week. So I don't know what I was. I just know it was not 10-0. But I was 10-0 in the picks and 5-0.
That's right.
Buy or sell.
Clean sweep.
But I imagine not 5-0 in buy or sell this week. So
yeah, we'll get to that later. You were just 5-0 this week.
Enjoying it for one more moment, I guess.
Yeah, trying to ride the highs as long as possible.
Got to do it, man. Got to do it.
What was your biggest whiff this weekend?
Oh, in the big three, I only got one of them right.
Okay.
Which was Oregon. Because I picked, figured your Georgia Bulldogs at home, Tyler, would have maybe won the game. They did not. And I also...
Don't blame me. I'm not playing or coaching.
Well, you're the closest thing that I have right now to blame that on. So,
okay.
And then I had LSU beating Ole Miss, and we'll maybe get into that a little bit later on since that's South Carolina's next opponent. But man, those are three pretty good games.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I picked. Did I pick LSU? I don't even remember if I picked LSU or Ole Miss. Those are three great games. I did think, I actually thought Oregon was going to win by a lot more. We got some really good games, though. Tyler, I did want to get your take on this.
Okay.
What did you think of Georgia kicking, or instead of kicking, going for it on the 4th and 1? So there was a lot going on there.
There was.
First of all, you declined the opportunity to kick people say chip shot field goal. I mean, probably, still a pressure-packed field goal if you go kick it in that situation.
Sure.
Not a 50-yarder, right? So you got an opportunity to tie it. You go for it. So number one, there's that. What did you think of that? And then number two, what did you think? A lot of people are talking about the play call because you had that play call on kind of a little bit of a funky formation. You go tempo. So that was another thing. Do you go tempo? Do you not go tempo? And it got blown up. What did you think?
For one, I am always going to be pro take points when you can, especially in a low-scoring game like that.
In that situation, yeah.
You would have tied it at 24 with 13 minutes left, and you only got to possess the ball one more time after that. So I would have kicked it just myself in general. Now, they tried to go tempo to catch Alabama off, and they got the look that they wanted. Here's the problem. That right tackle and right guard were both true freshmen going up against Alabama's very experienced defensive line, and they got blown up on the play. So you got the look you wanted, but experience outweighed, or the experience of Alabama's defensive line outweighed what you had on yours, and that blew the play up. Like, Cash Jones is very capable of making that first down, but when you got two guys that break through the line that quickly, dead from the beginning, and I kind of knew at that point the game was over, unfortunately.
Really?
Yes.
You were going game's over.
Yep.
Okay. We all have the benefit of hindsight in that. I personally think you kick it, you take the points there. Now, if you miss the field goal, people are going to be saying, you had 4th and 1. Can you not get a yard? You're Georgia, right? Like, I
will say, I am never team shotgun runs on 4th and 1, ever. Under center, like, give yourself a better opportunity, in my opinion. And, again, they got the look they wanted, but I will never be a fan of shotguns on 4th and 1 if you're going to run it.
I think shotgun with a Gunnar Stockton, a Lenoris Sellers, where you're keeping a little bit more of an opportunity for a quarterback run, a speed option, something like that. I can understand it in that situation, but yeah, I would have liked to see a kick there too if you're a Georgia fan, which I'm not, but that's what I would have gone with. And I get, look, we ran that same play, we hit it a few times against Tennessee, we got the look we want, we missed a block, right? Like, but I think thinking about the fact that you did have those true freshmen on the right side, which is the play side. I think, you would have liked to see a kick there.
Is Juan Gaston one of those Trues?
Yeah, he is.
Who's the other true freshman starter?
Oh God, what's his name?
Sorry, I'm not putting you on the spot.
No.
It doesn't really matter. I know Juan was a big early target for South Carolina. They loved him, and then I think just hey, it's Georgia.
Yeah,
kind of won out, but that kid's good. He just is a true freshman in the SEC, but man, I kind of like the aggressiveness of Kirby there because you're kicking it to tie. You still have to go score,
sure,
to win the game, and and you're still going to need a stop. And if you score there, like if you score a touchdown there, you take the lead, and then obviously all you need is a stop, and you win the game. You set yourself up. So I don't know, like it felt a little. Did Kirby at all buy into the we have an Alabama problem, and was that a Kirby Smart typical move or no? I feel like I have not paid as much attention to Georgia on a game-to-game basis the last couple seasons because they're not on South Carolina's radar at all.
Yeah.
Was that in character for him to go for it there, or was that a little bit I've always kind of at his core thought of Kirby being a defensive-minded coach and hey, we're going to put this on our defense and be a little bit more old school. I understand it's 4th and 1. You're Georgia. You're saying, hey, we can run the ball here.
Sure.
Were you surprised he went for it? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I am a little surprised considering how well your defense was playing at that point because Alabama didn't score any points in the second half. And I always tend to think that he likes to play to his defense. So, okay, tie the game, we'll get the ball back, and then we'll drive to win after that. But at least keep yourself alive by having a tie ball game as opposed to keeping yourself down. But, yeah, it's surprised me a little bit. But what's done is done. And, again, still a lot of football left to be played, and those teams could see each other again in Atlanta. But, yes, definitely a Alabama problem, 1-7 now in his now decade there, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
And especially for how much DeBoer struggles on the road. Thought, okay, this lines up perfectly. But, hey, credit to DeBoer, credit to Alabama, who a lot of people wrote off after week number 1. They looked like they were back to true form and playing Alabama football on Saturday. How about also Caden Proctor nearly getting a touchdown on that screen? That would have, you want to talk about a play that to be remembered for a long time.
Someone recreated that on the college football game as best they could. It was phenomenal. They also... I don't know. I didn't get to watch that whole game because we were watching South Carolina, Kentucky, obviously. But I saw some pieces of it, and they put him in motion one time, right behind the line. I don't think they ended up getting to run the play because there was a timeout or something.
I think they false started or something on that.
Yeah, it messed up their own offense. They were like, what is this? What are we doing? Some diabolical stuff. But, y'all, that's why, to a broader point, I'll put myself in this category. After I certainly thought Alabama was not only going to beat Florida State in week 1, but handily.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being the complete opposite. I think number 1, Florida State's a lot better than they were last season. They just lost the game, right? But I think it just goes to show, you can't. It's fandom, right? You're gonna, there's 12 games in a season, guaranteed. You're always going to ride the highs and lows of each game, but you can't ride off a team for losing one game, especially a week 1 game. Since then, Bama has passed every test, and the Georgia game was certainly the biggest test. But, we came into this season, hey, Bama, they're one of the most talented teams in the country. They've got some questions at quarterback. They lose week 1. Oh, here we go. DeBoer's on the hot seat. Oh, let me Google what his buyout is, all those things. And then now they're in good shape. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. They might lose their next game against
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell week to week, but there's so much parity now. Ty Simpson's now getting Heisman love because he's played fantastic.
Yep.
He's also channeling Nick Saban. He says "I" all the time. I don't know if y'all have noticed that.
Well,
he's keeping Saban in the building.
Well, he has been around since Saban's first year back in 07.
That's right.
So
it rubbed off on him a little bit. But man, just so much parity. You can't make a snap judgment or a big picture judgment on a team until we at least get let's get a part of the way through the season. And that's a lesson I think I need to take away a little bit more too.
Well, I mean, can we look at anybody through the first 5 weeks of college football and say, yep, definitely that is unquestionably the best team in the country, bar none?
Yeah.
Like, it's a mixed bag. You have a lot of candidates for it right now, but nobody's running away with it by any means.
Well, I think, guys, we've got the making probably this season of an excellent playoff.
Sure.
Like we don't know who's going to be in it, but I think you're going to have an opportunity there where you're going to say most of the teams that make the playoff, if they play to their standard, like play to what they're capable of, will have a chance to win it this year. Whereas last year, I mean, that thing got whittled down. Like the pretenders and the contenders got separated very quickly last year. I think it'll be a little bit different this year. But, I mean, while we're talking about Alabama, that's a team that's obviously on the schedule for South Carolina. And you were coming out of that thing week one going, hey, they come to South Carolina, they come to Columbia. Maybe that's a little bit easier. You're looking at that thing now going, that game is maybe tougher than we thought even before the season started. A lot of it because of Ty Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing where I think we all take the quarterback who's waited his turn and we kind of label him like, all right, is this going to be a little bit of a game manager type? Is he going to be one of those guys who just spreads the ball around but is reliant on everybody else on this offense to be really, really good? Guys, I don't think that's who Ty Simpson is. Like, I think this guy might be a baller. And, you know, I watched some of that. Like, I had it on in the background. I actually went back and watched a little bit of what was out there on him. I mean, Georgia, man, that Kirby defense, it's kind of different than it used to be in terms of, like, scheme. But, man, some of the pre-snap stuff they, like, do to roll to different coverages, they're, like, giving you a cover 3 look that rolls the filled cornerback into, like, the cover 2 half safety spot, basically. Like, they're doing all this stuff to you, trying to confuse you. And the parts I saw, he's still just kind of dotting you up and delivering the football in that environment, which looked pretty special on TV. I don't know, man. Like, that guy, like, he honestly should maybe be in the Heisman at least outside of that conversation. Now, obviously, he's going to have to keep playing very, very well. But to me, we're going short-sighted on the positive side that we've seen from Alabama. He is playing the game that I think we all thought Nussmeier would be playing right now.
Sure.
Nussmeier looks off. Like, there's something up with him. There's some clips moving around social media right now. His mechanics look different. The ball's not on the deep throws, just not coming out of his hand the way it did last year. There's something up with that LSU offense right now.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's something Carolina can take advantage of coming up in a little over 10 days, which, by the way, it is going to be a night kick, so you didn't luck out and get a 3:30 kick in Baton Rouge. So you're going to have to beat LSU in their toughest environment. For them, you know, we'll see if they get things corrected by then, but certainly not going to be an easy task going into Baton Rouge next weekend.
No, and it never will be, guys.
No, of course not. But again, you maybe feel 0.5% better if you're kicking off at 3:30 as opposed to 7 or 7:45 or whatever. But regardless, it can be a challenge, and we'll certainly talk plenty about that game as that game gets closer. But we'll put some final thoughts on the Kentucky game and some things we didn't get to yesterday as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you on your Tuesday here on the game. Putting a bit of a bow on the win over Kentucky over the weekend, 35-13. Guys, we spent a lot of yesterday obviously talking about the reemergence of Sellers in the run game as he had his best performance by far of the season on the ground, 81 yards on 14 carries, a lot of those being scrambles, which is something we hadn't seen a ton so far through the first 4 games of the season. But the running back situation still didn't give you a whole lot on Saturday night. Again, a lot of those runs up the middle didn't really amount to much. Matthew Fuller led the way. Majority of his yards and carries came on that final drive where Carolina was just kind of salting the game away. So you head into a bye week with still a lot of questions about your running back situation, who's going to emerge, and how much you can rely on that going forward through these final 7 games of the regular season.
Yeah, and I think, guys, different running backs have different skill sets, obviously. And I think with Fuller, what they're kind of the reason you see him coming along, I think, a little bit and getting more playing time. Obviously, I imagine there are some comfort level things there, Chris, and there are some things where the staff just maybe feels like he's coming along in terms of like knowing the playbook, maybe knowing some pass protections and stuff like that. There's just a greater comfort level, a greater trust there. But I think a lot of it is go back to the spring game, and it caught my attention when Shane Beamer said, it's paraphrasing here, it's fun watching him kind of the way he can move the pile a little bit. And to me, that's them sort of saying, like, all right, it's really not that different than, let's say some teams have like a short yardage back or a guy that they feel comfortable just going in and getting that tough yard. And in the SEC, here's the thing. Yes, you'd love to just knock everybody back every single time. And frankly, they do still need more from the run blocking aspect. They need more of a push. They need, honestly, to just execute better to where you look at a play and you say, man, that one guy kind of appears to have gone to the wrong person he was supposed to block, frankly. They need to improve in those areas too. But I think you look, Chris, at the really good rushing attacks, and there's some tackle breaking going on as well, especially when you face a really good defense that is going to shore things up and kind of fit their gaps the way they're supposed to. So I think they're looking at that. If you get a one-on-one situation, can you run through a tackle? And then the other side of that, too, is if it's kind of just muddled up in there and there's not really much room, what is there a difference in outcomes when you just kind of roll the pile forward a little bit and maybe you get 1.5 yards and nobody blinks twice and nobody even talks about it? But you know what? Now you're at 2nd and about 8.5 as opposed to 2nd and 10. And it seems like a very, very small thing that maybe to some people doesn't even matter. But when you have as many negative plays as this offense has had just over the years, maybe they're looking at it going, that matters to us.
Yep. I agree. I mean, a bunch of things came to mind there. I mean, number one, that's an area where, look, was the run game good, quote unquote good, against Kentucky? No, I don't think you could say that, particularly because LaNorris Sellers was your leading rusher. Good chunk of his yards came when he was just doing, frankly, LaNorris Sellers things. But there were some differences, and one of them was the lack of negative plays. I mean, we talked about it all season so far, and you used the term years. I mean, yes, they're over the years in the Beamer era, too many negative plays on offense, and so that was something that they were going to have to clean up, and they did in this game, because you go back and look. I mean, they had a lot of 1 yard, 2 yard runs. They had some no gain runs, but there was only one where they lost a yard on a designed running play. They had a couple sacks, and that was progress. It was a step in the right direction. That doesn't mean it wasn't ugly. It was. Doesn't mean it needs to be a lot better. It does. But you did take that step in not having as many negative plays. And so I think when they were thinking about schematically, what do we want to do here? What does our personnel look like? I think that did play into this because they were better offensively in this game. And I do think the lack of negative plays, being able to stay, I don't even know if ahead of the chains is the right word, but you're not in as many unfavorable downs and distances. Now, when you look at Fuller, go back to what Shane Beamer said. He got on the field against Missouri, got some carries, and Shane Beamer said that was part of a package that they had for him. So I think they had 2 backs on the field at that time, and they expanded that in the Kentucky game. So I think you can look at it. Maybe he's behind the other guys just in being able to administer and play it within the structure of the entire offense. But it seems like they're bringing him along from that standpoint. You do at some point, Wes, have to have some guys who can run through more tackles. I mean, think about, I saw this. This was a post, and not to pick on anybody, but on our forum, on the Insiders Forum, hey, a 5-star running back wouldn't make a difference right now. And I couldn't disagree more with that. I mean, you're telling me if we stuck, Marcus Lattimore in this offense, that things wouldn't be, that he couldn't make some things happen. That's what Marcus Lattimore did. I mean, think about a lot of his iconic runs, some of the things that he did. He was an expert at taking runs where he was hitting the backfield, there's not much there, and he's at least getting something. Remember Steve Spurrier, Marcus scored that touchdown against LSU, and Spurrier was like, that might be the best 2-yard run that I've ever seen. Lattimore could make a ton of big plays for you, but he could also take something that wasn't good and make it okay, and give you something on the ground. So again, there's so many parts to this rushing problem that they've had. Some of it's blocking on the O-line, some of it's blocking with the tight end, some of it's backs with missing a read on a zone carry, or not making the cut that you should, or not running through a tackle. And yes, some of it, there have been some times you can go back and look and say, probably wasn't the best call against that particular defense. It's really been all of it. When you have the results that you've had, it's not just one thing. So Fuller is a guy that, he runs angry, he runs violent, and he is a pile pusher. He may not be as dynamic in the open field as some guys. We don't really know yet because we haven't seen enough of it. We haven't seen him get those opportunities in the open field. Hopefully those come in the future. But he is a guy that, because of his running style, I think can give you, hey, sometimes it may be the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You'll take that, frankly, at times with this offense, with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and Chris, I don't think that means you give up on the other 2 guys either. Like, I think there's a place for both those guys as well. That's one. But the thing with Fuller, to me, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction. And I saw some people saying on, hey, I told y'all that Fuller should be RB1. I thought there were some good things for him in the fourth quarter. Kentucky knows you're running the ball, so that plays in. There wasn't this was not a dominant performance by him by any means. Your longest run was 5 yards, from Fuller. So I think there are some things there. I don't think we look at what he did in the fourth and say, hey, it's just fixed. He's just, boom, he's your number 1 back. But yeah, there's a lot to like there. Now I'm going to make a prediction based on what I saw from him in the spring game, his movement ability at his size. Yes, he can push the pile, but, man, I think he's going to be one of those guys. Let me compare it to a Kevin Harris, when nobody was talking about speed for Kevin Harris, and then lo and behold, my man finds open grass, and you go, this guy can run. And I think when Fuller finally gets open grass and we really see him hit that extra gear, I got a feeling he's going to be one of those guys that everybody goes, man, that guy's a little bit faster than I thought he would be based on body type. So they just got to see if they can find that grass, though. And, here's the thing we haven't seen yet. If they can get him head of steam, can you block that first level? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the other thing you want to see from the backs, and Fuller really has not had this opportunity yet, if you can get it to the second level, if you can get it to the third level of the defense, and you have that size coming downhill at a safety or cornerback, can he break that tackle? Because if you're going to have a good rushing attack, you have to mix in. Like when a team has a 100-yard rusher in a game, they always have mixed in a pop run, a 20 here, an 18 there. A lot of times you'll have maybe a couple of those little bursts, like explosive runs. You have to have that if you're going to have a good rushing attack.
We'll see how we did on buy or sell over the weekend. Coming up next, as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along here on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you on your Tuesday here on the game. Reminder, keep listening out all day long for your next chance to win $1,000 in our national cash contest giveaway. Just be listening out for the next keyword and text it to 95819 for your chance to win $1,000. Checking back in from the weekend and go back to Friday, we did our buy or sell at the Kentucky game, and let's see how we did as we go through point by point here. The first question that I asked on Friday was Vendrevious Jacobs, who had 100 yards, 128 yards specifically against Missouri the week before. Could somebody else eclipse 100 yards in the game against Kentucky over the weekend? The correct answer was no, because once again, it was Vendrevious Jacobs going over 100 yards. Wes, you bought that somebody else would get it. Chris and I both sold, so Chris and I end up with the point on that one. But, hey, it's a good problem to have. Another great game by Vendrevious Jacobs.
Yes. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but how awesome has he been? Chris, did we, I think we always knew Dre had a chance. Like, I think we talked about him more last preseason, frankly. We always knew Dre Jacobs had a chance to be a good player. I'll speak for myself. I think I underestimated his upside as a wide receiver. Like, a lot of times, we get caught up in certain aspects of a wide receiver, and it's kind of hard. This is something Charles Power talks about. It's really hard to separate a really good receiver from a guy who, frankly, just maybe never quite pans out, because there's a lot of really, really good receivers in high school. And so differentiating between, hey, this guy's going to make the transition and this guy isn't, can be difficult. But I think Dre has shown an ability throughout his career so far. He's starting to stack sort of competitive catches where you're saying, wow, he actually adjusted to the ball. Ball's over his head, where he goes up and just snatches it with his hands, doesn't use his body. That's something I look for from wide receivers. We saw the Missouri game, the ability to go track the ball down the field and kind of catch the over-the-shoulder type play. And then against an SEC defense that you wouldn't say is maybe the best defense in the league, but still a conference defense, we saw on Saturday, frankly, more kind of upper-level speed, kind of his top-end speed than I knew was there, as he caught that short ball and just ran away. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the first time we saw Leggett just run away from a defense against Mississippi State. I was going, man, there's a little bit more juice here than we maybe gave him credit for. And I don't know, man. Like, I think he's, like, truly rounding into a wide receiver one for this team.
Yeah, I think, good point. We tend to forget about the most important aspects of playing receiver, because you can just get so caught up in the measurables, which can help you, but you have to have they do help you, but you got to have the biggest tools that you need in your tool belt if you're a receiver, which is get open and catch football when it's thrown to you. And that's caused us, I think, to forget about Vendrevious Jacobs at times. And, he's kind of sandwiched in there, as we've said, between some of the other returners that are a little older, Nick Harbor, the progress he's made, and then this 6-man freshman class. Everybody's pushed each other in that room, and Dre Jacobs is just sitting there kind of right in the middle as a transfer who's not a senior, and he's not one of the heralded guys from this freshman class, but he's done a really good job. He has only not caught the ball one time when he's been targeted, and that was that play against Missouri where it was just a little bit of an off connection. I think he hesitated just slightly coming out of the break. It was a rocket from Lenoris that was a little out of reach, maybe because he was a little late on that break, that little hesitation. Other than that, he's caught everything that's been thrown to him. And, sometimes, guys, you just look and, hey, this guy's been targeted 20 times. He's got 10 catches or 15 catches. You inevitably have some where the ball's overthrown, it's underthrown, it's broken up, whatever. When Lenore Sellers has thrown Dre Jacobs the football, they found a way to connect, and there's something to be said for that. So he's been really, really good. And I think if we ask Tyler, if he busts out that question again, I think we might have to play the odds at this point.
I will say that's foreshadowing. This will definitely be coming up ahead of the LSU game coming up at the end of next week. Question number 2 was, per Pro Football Focus's count, Carolina had back-to-back games with double-digit missed tackles against Vanderbilt and Missouri. and we were going to go off their number. Could South Carolina end up in the single digits on Saturday? We all bought that, and the total number was 6.
I think I changed mine at the last second too, because I was like, no. I need to. I just still had Ahmad Hardy in my brain, and I changed my mind at the last second. So I told y'all, I was like, I don't feel great about this at all.
Well, I would be willing to bet at least 2 or 3 of those missed tackles came on Kentucky's opening drive. But after that, lock things down, and only 6 total in the game per Pro Football Focus.
Progress.
Yep.
Step in the right direction. Question number 3, speaking of steps in the right direction, was South Carolina would commit fewer than 5 pre-snap penalties on Saturday. And thankfully, we were all right on that one, too. Only 1 pre-snap penalty, that being a false start by Tree in the third quarter. But a significant improvement from the week before against Missouri.
Yes, and I think we all bought that one just because we didn't want our eyes to bleed. So
we were hopeful. Yes.
Huge key in that game.
Oh, absolutely a huge key when you're not routinely putting yourself 5 yards, behind the sticks each and every time. That certainly helps out. Made third downs a lot better, by the way. The best third down marks for South Carolina since the Clemson game, going back to last year.
Good on third down offense and defense for Carolina.
Offense and defense, yes, absolutely. Question number 4. None of us got this right. With the exception of 2020, as Beamer mentioned last week, neither offense had scored over 24 points in this matchup. Somebody would do that better over the weekend. We all bought. Did not happen. Carolina scored 21 points offensively and obviously was aided by 2 defensive scores. So still chasing that 24-point mark, but you still won pretty comfortably.
I'm just going to say the defense took away their opportunity to score on those 2 drives.
On those 2 drives,
They
yes.
did, yeah. Theoretically, if instead of scooping scores in a pick 6, if they
got tackled at the 3.
Yeah, or, because Kilgore picked it off at about midfield. Jagier scooped it up at about the 35, 40-yard line, I think. So theoretically, if you take over at those 2 spots, Carolina conceivably could have driven in for at least field goals there, which would have put you over the 21-point mark.
Kilgore was smelling the end zone, though.
Oh, he was.
My man was not going to be stopped.
By the way, leading...
Gerald Kilgore.
Yeah, G-Kill, as I like to put him in my notes whenever he does something. Which, by the way, apparently they call themselves the Kill Zone on the back end. I saw that on Instagram, which that's an awesome name.
That is an awesome name.
Take advantage of it if you can.
Yeah, I love that.
That's one of those where you can, Tyler, I know you have a rule against giving yourself a nickname, but
Sure.
I think we might. Maybe somebody else came up with it.
Maybe
but
the high school coach gave them that nickname, and they rocked with it, which I can buy that.
The fact that it is already built into their last name, too, I think gives you a little bit of leeway to give yourself the name. But I'm happy for Gerald, man. Like, their dad, very active on social media, but, like, in a super wholesome, good way. Very encouraging, which you don't always see that from the social media parents. So I'll always pull for the Kilgores, man. They just seem like a great family. So it's been fun to see Gerald. He's one of those guys. We talk about these guys, right? Played a bunch of special teams last year. Didn't complain. Came back, worked hard. Still very active on special teams. Playing a little bit more gradually on defense. And, some guys have that ball magnet quality. Maybe G-Kill does.
Maybe so. Last question, number 5. Neither team has more than a 1-score lead in the game at any point over the weekend. You guys both sold on that. I bought that. And, of course, Carolina ends up winning that game pretty handily.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the final tally? Where are we at now?
Let's see. Make sure I got
where
this.
were we this week?
So that would put...
I got 2 right.
You got 2 right. Chris got 3 right. I got 4.
Wow, Tyler.
So I just barely have the advantage.
You stole it from me, huh?
16-15, and Chris has 12.
12?
12.
So bad.
I mean, you made some ground up. You had 3 this week, so it's pretty good. Not too bad.
Yeah.
So
you didn't make ground up on you.
Well,
yeah, not really. I got a ways to go.
It's still tight. We got a long season ahead, and there will be a buy or sell this week for the bye week. So brush up on things happening around college football as well.
Isn't it going to involve Diego Pavia?
It could. I haven't thought about it's Tuesday. I haven't thought of the questions yet.
Okay.
We'll get there when we get there. We'll come back, wrap up the hour. Pretty cool moment for a former Gamecock on Monday Night Football. We'll hit that coming up next to wrap up the hour. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
To his right, looking for somewhere to go. And it's picked. Intercepted by Demetrius Knight. with that interception, he just saved about 19, maybe.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the Game. That was called last night late on Monday Night Football. They did have a doubleheader, but we never take up an opportunity or never pass up an opportunity to talk about our guy, Demetrius Knight Jr., who did indeed get his first career interception last night in the end zone as the Broncos were driving to try and score. Now, the game didn't go the way he wanted it to for his team, as the Broncos would fall 28-3, but a cool moment for a guy that obviously we know his story very well, and a guy that people are going to love here in Columbia for a very long time, seeing him get his first career pick at the NFL level last night.
Yeah, he sat right over here and told us about his pick against Maryland, I think it was, coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, man, just an awesome dude. We all saw that. And goes to show you, hey, transfer portal, you can even go to 3 different places, and you can still find a home. A place you can call home and go back to. That's what I always look at, man, with the transfer guys. Like, where are you going to go for homecoming if you bounce around to a bunch of different places? And I think some guys handle the transfer bounce around one way, and other guys handle it, really, really well. And D. Knight certainly handled it well and found himself a home here in Columbia.
Yeah, he did. It's hard also, I think, D. Knight, he did a little bit more of a bounce around than some other guys because he ended up playing at 3 different programs. It's not just 2 or 1, but he truly found a home here, and he's just a great, great guy. I was going to say, you can't say kid, I mean, certainly not that. Guy's got a family. The maturity level is just off the charts. I go back to, remember Shane Beamer saying that he had talked to Jeff Collins, who was his coach at Georgia Tech, now on staff, interestingly enough, at South Carolina, working with Clayton White and those guys. And Jeff Collins said he was, favorite player he's ever coached. And you can kind of see why, right? It's interesting, Wes, looking back on, having D. Knight in here talking about that pick he had, against Maryland that he ran back for a touchdown, and then he ends the regular season with a huge pick to seal the Clemson game. Huge play, and he made a bunch of them, and then ends up playing his way into being a very high NFL draft pick and doing some really good stuff in the league. Couldn't happen to a better guy, and he's done an awesome job of just, developing and carving out a niche for him as a player, and he's making things happen on a big stage.
Yep, second leading tackle right now in the Bengals so far, which kind of lines up with obviously what he was doing here. Anybody see that Rattler almost caught his first career touchdown pass on Sunday for the Saints before it got picked off?
No, I missed that.
They tried to run like the Philly special, and he was in line. Like, he was in good position, but I forget which receiver threw it, but it unfortunately got picked off. Rattler's actually been playing pretty well. Saints aren't doing great, but Rattler himself's actually doing a pretty good job so far this season, and at the very least making a case for himself to hang around the league even if the Saints thing doesn't work out.
I frankly haven't been able to watch, let's be accurate. I haven't watched any of their games this year. I watched last year when he got, inserted into the lineup, and it was like, okay, no line play up front, like no time to throw. Olave is hurt, so there goes your top receiver. No running game to help you out, and by the way, you're a rookie. Like, good luck. So, happy to see that a lot of people are saying he is playing well. I don't know, man. Like, you got to think at the very least he has made some believers there in New Orleans, or some believers around the league. Like, here's the thing: if you can play. And even just him subbing in last year and giving the team a chance, even if a franchise does not say, hey, we're going to attach our future to you as our starter, just showing you can handle things the right way, you can go in and give a team a shot, you can make a lot of money in this league for a long time and not take all the hits if you end up being a backup. So I think, and we're talking, I think at the very least, like the baseline here is that Spencer has maybe given himself a chance to be in the league for a long time.
67% completion, 765 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. And they're 0-4, but, the defense has given up the last 2 games, they've given up 44 and 31. So, not a very good football team. But I think you're right. Spencer's getting a lot of well-deserved love. If you just go on social media, a lot of the NFL folks who are covering that league on a regular basis are talking him up. So that's another great thing to see for Spencer.
Yeah, it's always cool to see those guys doing good things to the next level. And again, congrats to Demetrius Knight for his first career interception there. We'll continue to break things down as the bye week rolls along coming up tomorrow. Maybe take a look at some of the opponents that Carolina has ahead and what we think of them after seeing them for a couple of weeks. That's all coming up tomorrow. Up next is the halftime show. Myself and Bill Gunner as your Tuesday rolls along here on The Game.